Business confidence slipped by 0.9 points in December compared to the previous month. That's according to SACCI's Business Confidence Index, which shows that confidence measured 95.2 index points in December compared to 96.1 in November. The BCI remained at a moderate level throughout last year, but the business and investor climate remains a major challenge. That's in spite different government initiatives aimed at restoring business and investor confidence. Now, according to SACCI, the country's economic performance has lagged behind its emerging market peers. The World Bank has cut South Africa's growth forecast to 1.3% for 2019. That's down from last year's 1.8%. The bank has cited challenges in mining production, low business confidence and policy uncertainty for the low growth environment. I'm now joined in the studio by SACCI senior economist Richard Downing. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News.
Pleasure.
So after December 2018, we saw a lot of momentum and ramaphoria, and December 2018, not so much.
Yeah, I think, there was a lot of positive sentiment in December. In December, first of all, as the ANC leadership was changed. And then, of course, in January, when the new year actually opened, the index actually peaked close to 100. And then gradually it came down, and towards the end of the year, as you've mentioned, we're down to about 95, which is, let's say, the average normal for the year as such. I think which only indicates to us how difficult it is to facing the challenges of the South African economy. It's not only about political leadership, it's also about, the direction of policy and certainty about policy. But we actually made an assessment throughout the year what's going on in terms of the indices or indicators that we use reflecting on the business climate. And there were some positive ones and there were some negative, but unfortunately the negative ones overshadowed the positive ones to a certain extent.
Okay, talk to us then about those sub-indices and the biggest contributors.
Yeah, I think we saw the Reserve Bank actually being quite responsible in terms of its policy. People, consumers, especially like me and you, moaning about interest rate hikes. But we must remember interest rates is a function of a lot of more things like capital flows internationally. And that is actually a very responsible way the Reserve Bank is actually approaching this. And therefore we saw inflation around about 4.5% to 5%. And we must remember interest rates increases actually caused the rand to actually appreciate quite a lot. And together with the crude oil price coming down, we are now better off in terms of that pressure on the cost side of things. So that was one of the more positive ones. Vehicle sales was also quite positive, above the longer term trend towards the end of the year. Unfortunately, December was again a little bit down. So that was a more positive one. So one of the biggest negative ones was actually the JSE All Share Price Index that came down quite a lot. And we saw in terms of non-residents, because of perhaps uncertainty around land reform debates and that type of stuff, that there was a sold off in terms of shares and bonds to the amount of 125 billion over the first 11 months of 2018, compared to 25 billion the previous year. And it's not, I think it is because of the difficulty that has actually established in terms of previous sort of administration. That is now we're trying to fix, and that is actually the reason for that, and not so much, the new sort of dispensation or new era that we're actually entering. So therefore, the business confidence is a sensitive issue, and we hope, that we could actually address certain of the issues and be very careful how we put forward our way forward in terms of, because the business climate and investor confidence is very fragile at the moment in terms of where we might be going.
We've been looking at 2017 and 2018. I want us to take a broader look. In 2006, the confidence index averaged 138. 2015, it was 100. 2017 was 94.5. December 2018, 95.5. Very slow uptick. It seems like there needs to be a lot more work done and a lot more done to increase business confidence. What are those things?
I think, first of all, we must just remember where we're coming from. I mean, the years after the big recession, for instance, 2006, that you've mentioned, when this index actually peaked, growth of 5% economic growth, unemployment quite down from where it is now. And that was a very sort of positive environment we were in, and that's why the index and business climate were very positive. But then, of course, unfortunately, there was some issues with administration, with service delivery in the whole of the economy, nationally as well as locally. We were approaching a fiscal sort of cliff to a certain extent, and I think we've perhaps averted that, but the challenges still remain. How are we going to get growth going so that we can address some of these issues, perhaps not solve it immediately? And that is the challenge, I think, that we're facing in 2019. And as you mentioned, the World Bank, lower growth, but still it's growth. And let's hope we can do more to incense investor confidence and business confidence.
Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. That was Richard Downing. He's SACCI's senior economist.